The world has been declared dead more times than a bad sequel. Prophets, dreamers, doomsday salesmen, all lining up to tell Americans exactly when the lights go out. And every time we blink, and the sun still rises. Let's kick off this absurd parade. 33 of the dumbest prophecies in U.S. history. Number 1. In 2011, Harold Camping had the confidence of a man who thought he'd crack the calendar of God himself. Not a guy on a street corner with a cardboard sign. No, this was a preacher with a radio empire, millions of listeners, and giant billboards across the country. May 21st, he promised, was Judgment Day. Followers sold houses, cashed out retirement accounts, even donated everything to his ministry. Why save for college, one father told his neighbor, if we're all leaving Earth on Saturday? The day arrived. Families dressed in their Sunday best and stood outside, eyes on the sky as if a divine download was scheduled at noon sharp. Midnight came. Silence. Nothing. Not even thunder for dramatic flair. Camping scrambled. Oh, my mistake. October 21st. That's the real date October came. Still nothing. Starbucks lines wrapped around the block, traffic crawled along highways, and the only thing that truly vanished was his credibility and thousands of believers' savings. Number 2, December 21st, 2012. The Mayan calendar was ending, and somehow that meant Earth was too. Hollywood made blockbuster movies about it, survivalists bought bunkers, and moms filled basements with canned beans. At one grocery store, a woman whispered, "This is it." They said the Mayan cycle stops today. Another shopper shrugged. So what? My calendar runs out every December. Doesn't mean the universe explodes, but panic was contagious. Families threw doomsday parties, cable news ran countdowns, and forums buzzed with last-minute survival tips. Then December 22nd arrived. The world was still here. People woke up groggy, not from apocalypse, but from cheap vodka at end-of-the-world parties. The planet didn't collapse, but bank accounts sure did, especially for anyone who spent their savings on bunkers and survival gear. Number 3, Y2K. It was 1999, and panic was louder than a Backstreet Boys concert. Experts warned that when the clock struck midnight, computers would forget how to count to 2000. That meant planes dropping, nukes launching, banks deleting savings, and maybe your toaster leading the rebellion. People cleared grocery shelves like the apocalypse had a coupon code. Midnight came, Dick Clark counted down. Fireworks filled the sky. And nothing. Lights stayed on. Airplanes stayed in the air. The only meltdown was people staring at mountains of canned ravioli and wondering how long until they could justify throwing them out. Number 4, Planet X, also called Nibiru. For 20 years, conspiracy prophets have promised a giant hidden planet was on its way to bulldoze Earth. First they said 2003, then 2012, then 2017. Each time, nothing happened. Believers post blurry telescope photos, circle random dots, and scream, "NASA is covering it up!" But here's the truth. If a planet the size of Earth was about to smash us, you wouldn't need YouTube videos. You'd see it dominating half the night sky. Nibiru has been arriving any day now for 2 decades. The only invisible thing is the credibility of the people who keep rescheduling the apocalypse, like it's a dentist appointment. Number 5. The Great Disappointment of 1844. Picture it. Tens of thousands of followers dressed in white robes, farms sold off, families gathered on hilltops. Preacher William Miller promised October 22nd was the day Jesus would return. Midnight came, everyone stared at the sky, and silence. No trumpets, no fire, no cosmic Uber ride. Just another Tuesday. The heartbreak was so massive, it earned its own name, the Great Disappointment. Some believers walked away humiliated, some invented excuses, and others launched new churches to keep the dream alive. But history remembers it as one of the most legendary failed prophecies of all time. Number 6. Edgar Whisenant in 1988. A former NASA engineer turned Doomsday author, he published a book called 88 Reasons Why the Rapture Will Be in 1988. churches gave away copies by the truckload, families packed bags for their one-way flight to heaven. Spoiler alert, September came and went with no sky show. Did he admit defeat? Of course not. He recalculated. Maybe 1989, then 93, then 94. By then, even his most faithful fans realized his math skills were as shaky as his predictions. The rapture never came, but the book sales sure did. Number 7. Joseph Smith, the founder of the Mormon movement, made a bold claim. Jesus would return before he died. That's not vague. That's a high-stakes promise. His followers braced for a dramatic sky event. Instead, Smith was killed in 1844, and the prophecy died with him. It was like pointing to the outfield, calling your home run, and then striking out in front of the whole stadium. His followers kept the faith alive, but the prophecy itself, total strikeout. Number 8. Televangelist Pat Robertson's 1982 doom. He wasn't just preaching blessings, he was preaching Armageddon. He told millions that judgment would hit that year. His viewers tuned in, waiting for chaos. Instead, 1982 gave us E.T., Reagan speeches, and Michael Jackson's Thriller. Robertson later admitted he might have been a little off. That's like saying, sorry, I missed the target, when you shot the arrow into a completely different zip code. Number 9. Herbert W. Armstrong. This man made a career out of circling dates on calendars. 1936, he said, the world ends. Wrong. Then 1943. Wrong. 1972. Wrong. 1975. Still wrong. Each time, his worldwide Church of God braced for chaos. Each time, the world kept spinning. He was the boy who cried wolf if the boy also ran a global media empire. His followers gave decades of loyalty and money in exchange for one thing: disappointment delivered right on schedule. Number 10. Uriah Smith and his famous 1881 prediction. With charts, calculations, and plenty of confidence, he promised Christ's return before the year was up. Believers counted down nervously. The year came, the year went, and nothing happened except ordinary life. Trains ran, farms produced, and the apocalypse stubbornly refused to RSVP. His followers were left embarrassed, and the only fire anyone saw that year was the heat of humiliation. Number 11. The Hale-Bopp Comet of 1997. To most Americans, it was a pretty light show in the night sky. To the Heaven's Gate cult, it was a cosmic taxi. Their leader told them a spaceship was hiding behind the comet, ready to beam them up. But there was a catch. They had to leave their earthly vehicles first. Translation: tragic mass suicide. 39 people lost their lives. The prophecy was equal parts horrifying and absurd, like bad science fiction dressed up as salvation. The comet glided past, the spaceship never appeared, and Earth kept spinning. What stayed behind was one of the darkest and dumbest doomsday stories in modern America. Number 12. It was 1982 when two scientists warned that a planetary alignment would trigger worldwide chaos. Earthquakes, floods, maybe even the end of civilization. Newspapers ran with it, and Americans braced for doomsday. Did you hear? The planets are lining up, one neighbor whispered to another. And when they do, Los Angeles might fall into the sea. People stocked flashlights, canned food, and radios. March arrived, the planets aligned, and nothing happened. The streets were calm, houses stood firm, and the world carried on. Families sat at their kitchen tables staring at dusty boxes of supplies, shaking their heads. So, we panicked over a geometry problem? Number 13. In the 1790s, the Shakers were convinced the end was coming any day. Their leader, Ann Lee, was believed to be the female Christ, and her followers gave up nearly everything in preparation. They lived communally, abandoned marriage, and practiced celibacy while waiting for fire and brimstone. One young man looked around the room of silent believers and muttered, "Wait a second. No children, no families, and no apocalypse? How exactly does this work?" The years rolled on. The world didn't end. Their rocking chairs outlasted their prophecies. And the great irony? Their own ban on family life practically guaranteed the movement's decline. Number 14. After William Miller's failed 1844 prediction, his followers could have admitted defeat. Instead, they just picked new dates. First 1845, then 46, then 51. Families stood waiting on hillsides again and again. Each time, sunrise came and life continued. Maybe it was a spiritual return, leaders insisted. Spiritual? One farmer asked, rubbing his temples. So we sold the farm. For a ghost apocalypse? By the time the last date passed, the only thing left was a mountain of excuses. Their sequel prophecies became as repetitive as a broken alarm clock, always ringing, never delivering. Number 15. When the 1870s rolled around, some Adventists decided to get creative. They declared Christ had returned in 1874, just invisibly. Invisibly? One skeptic asked. So he's ruling the earth, but we just can't see him? Yes, came the confident reply. The skeptic laughed. That's the kind of answer my kid gives when he says his imaginary friend ate the cookies. And yet, whole movements grew from this invisible claim. If you can't prove it, and you can't disprove it, well, that's one way to keep hope alive. Number 16. In the late 1800s, pamphlets spread across America with a chilling rhyme, attributed to the legendary seer Mother Shipton. She supposedly predicted the world would end in 1881. Look, a shopkeeper told his wife, holding the pamphlet. It's written in verse. It has to be true. On the big day, nervous families waited, but instead of the sky cracking open, cows mooed in their pastures, trains rolled down their tracks, and crops grew just fine. Later, historians discovered the rhyme was a forgery. So we panicked, one man sighed, over a fake poem? Number 17. 1910, Halley's Comet lit up the night sky. Scientists found its tail contained traces of cyanogen gas. Newspapers twisted that into a terrifying headline. Comet tail could poison Earth. On street corners, salesmen hawked miracle cures. Anti-comet pills. Comet-proof umbrellas. Protect your family from space poison. Families huddled in sealed rooms, waiting for toxic skies. Midnight passed. Nothing. The comet glided by peacefully, leaving behind beautiful memories, not bodies. The next morning, a father looked at his half-empty wallet and muttered, "We spent a week's pay on an umbrella to block outer space gas." Number 18. Jehovah's Witness leaders pointed to 1914 as the year the world would end. Fire, war, and divine judgment were promised. Followers counted the days. When 1914 arrived, the world plunged into World War I. Horrific, yes, but not Armageddon. One believer whispered, "Is this it? Is this the kingdom?" Another shook his head. "No, this is just Europe tearing itself apart." Leaders quickly adjusted. Christ did return, they explained, just invisibly, in heaven. A neat rewrite to protect the prophecy. But for ordinary families who had sold homes or quit jobs, the invisible explanation felt hollow. Number 19. Psychic Jean Dixon claimed California would slide into the ocean in 1969. Word spread quickly. Hollywood elites worried about their mansions. Families debated packing up and heading inland. "I'm not staying near the coast," one nervous homeowner said. "She said the whole state sinks." "Relax," his neighbor replied. "If California disappears, where would we get our oranges?" 1969 came. California stayed right where it was. The only thing sinking was Dixon's credibility, although she bounced back with more failed predictions. She never admitted being wrong, just moved on to the next date. Number 20. When Mount St. Helens started rumbling in 1980, some preachers claimed it was a biblical warning. "This is it," one pastor boomed from the pulpit. "The earth is groaning. The end is here." Geologists, meanwhile, calmly explained, "Volcanoes do this. It's science." The mountain erupted in May. It was devastating, but it wasn't revelation, just geology in motion. Families mourned, scientists studied, and life went on. As one weary resident said afterward, Turns out, not every puff of smoke means the four horsemen are coming. Sometimes it's just a mountain. Number 21. 1979 brought something stranger, the so-called Twinkie Doom. After Dan White assassinated San Francisco Mayor George Moscone and Supervisor Harvey Milk, his lawyers argued junk food binges contributed to his depression. Reporters spun it as the Twinkie defense. Soon, whispers linked it to prophecy. See? Even snack cakes are a sign of moral collapse. End times are here, one teenager laughed. So the world ends because of cupcakes? The apocalypse never arrived. Twinkies, however, stayed on store shelves, outliving the panic and proving that preservatives can endure longer than fear. Number 22. Harold camping again. Before his infamous 2011 fail, he had already tried his hand at doomsday math in 1994. September 6th, he said, was the end of everything. His radio listeners braced for the trumpet blast. Families stayed glued to the broadcast, whispering prayers. "Any minute now," one husband murmured to his wife, clutching her hand. Instead of angels, the station played smooth jazz, traffic updates, and weather reports. By morning, it was just another Wednesday. Camping sighed, admitted he might have miscalculated, and promised to check his numbers again. So, same time next decade? A listener joked. Number 23. 2006 brought one of the strangest apocalypses ever argued, the burrito versus sandwich trial. Panera Bread tried to block a Mexican chain from opening nearby, claiming burritos were sandwiches, which would violate their exclusivity contract. In court, the lawyer thundered, "A burrito is in fact a sandwich." The judge shook his head. "No, it isn't." And just like that, the so-called prophecy of burritos destroying Panera's empire collapsed. Civilization didn't end. Lunch just kept rolling on tortillas. One customer left the courtroom muttering, "Imagine telling our kids we went to war over whether a burrito is bread." Number 24. Some people weren't satisfied with the Y2K flop. They claimed the real computer apocalypse was just delayed by 10 years. January 1st, 2010 would be the true crash. The day power grids went down, planes fell, and chaos erupted. Basement preppers restocked beans. Forum threads buzzed with tips. "I'm telling you," one man insisted online, "this is the real one. I'm ready this time." Midnight struck. Computers yawned. Life carried on. His wife opened the pantry door the next morning. So what do we do with 20 cans of chili now? Number 25. In the 1990s, Nostradamus fever swept across America. His cryptic verses were dusted off and reinterpreted to mean the world would end in July 1999. Preppers whispered about a king of terror descending from the sky. One man stood in his backyard that July night, staring upward. "This is it. I can feel it." His neighbor leaned over the fence. "All I feel is mosquitoes." Thunder rumbled in the distance, lightning cracked, and for a moment the man gasped. Then the storm passed, and morning came. Nostradamus remained mysterious, the earth remained solid, and Americans proved again that we love turning riddles into doomsday warnings. Number 26. August 1987 brought the harmonic convergence. New Age leaders promised that when the planets aligned, humanity would enter a golden age of peace. Thousands flocked to sacred sites like Mount Shasta and Sedona. They chanted, meditated, and waited for the cosmic shift. "I can feel the energy already," one woman told a stranger, clutching a crystal. By nightfall, the energy turned out to be sunburns, drum circles, and overpriced aura photos. No golden age arrived. Just a weekend of spiritual camping trips and a booming crystal market. One man packed up his tent and sighed. "Guess we still have to go to work Monday." Number 27. The dawn of 2000 brought a bizarre combo prophecy. Y2K plus the rapture. Not only would computers fail, preachers warned, but the Antichrist himself might boot up at midnight. Families huddled in living rooms, Bibles on the table, flashlights in hand. "Any second," one woman whispered, "it'll all begin." Times Square counted down. Fireworks exploded. Confetti rained down. The ball dropped, and instead of horsemen, there was champagne. People woke up the next morning hungover, staring at shelves full of Spam and bottled water. The only thing that came together was a double failure. Number 28. 2014 and 15 brought a series of blood moon eclipses. Pastors declared they were divine warnings, God's billboard flashing judgment now. Churches filled with anxious crowds, live streams counted down, and books flew off shelves. As the shadow crept across the moon, families gasped. It's happening. Then the moon glowed red, hung beautifully in the sky, and nothing else happened. No plagues, no fire, no chaos. Just Instagram photos and a lot of sheepish faces the next day. One teenager snapped a selfie and said, "If this is the end of the world, it's gorgeous." Number 29. Yellowstone, the supervolcano. Every time steam rises from its geysers, prophecy blogs declare the apocalypse. They named dates: 2006, 2012, 2020. Each time, tourists still posed for selfies with bison, while the ground quietly bubbled. "I'm serious," one online prophet typed furiously. "This is it." Meanwhile, a park ranger explained calmly to visitors, "No, it's just steam." The park does this. If Yellowstone ever truly blows, it won't be announced on a blog. Until then, the dumb prophecy isn't the volcano. It's pretending anyone knows the date. Number 30. In 2013, Subway faced a scandal when customers discovered their footlongs sometimes measured only 11 inches. Outrage spread online, and soon doomsayers jumped in. "See?" they warned. "Even sandwiches are proof of deception in the last days." One man held up his sub. "So civilization ends because my lunch is short an inch?" Lawsuits were filed, memes exploded, but the world kept spinning. Subway explained bread shrinks in the oven. The apocalypse didn't arrive, just shorter sandwiches. Number 31, September 23, 2017. A planetary alignment was said to match a prophecy in Revelation. Preachers posted dramatic videos, blogs screamed countdowns. Families marked calendars. "Are you ready?" one mother asked her kids. "Ready for what?" the youngest replied. "For the world to change." September 23rd looked just like the 22nd. Kids still watched cartoons, parents still paid bills, and the sky stayed perfectly ordinary. By dinnertime, families laughed nervously and set the table. The world hadn't ended. Dinner had. Number 32, author Richard Noon published a book warning that on May 5th, 2000, the planets would align, and the polar ice caps would shift, triggering a frozen apocalypse. His book sold, survivalists buzzed, and some people whispered, "We have less than a year left." On the big day, families huddled around TVs, bracing for disaster. The planets aligned, and the only disaster was brain freeze at Dairy Queen. One teenager licked his Blizzard and grinned. "Guess the only ice apocalypse is this milkshake." The irony, Noon's name gave it away. No one should have believed him in the first place. Number 33. And then there's the infamous September 23rd prophecies, plural. 2015, 2017, 2023, even 2025. Over and over, prophets circled the same date and shouted doom. "This time it's real," a believer insisted. "The signs are all there." Each year, September 23rd came and went. People stocked up, panicked, prayed, and on September 24th, woke up to another sunrise. By now, September 23rd isn't even prophecy, it's comedy. One teenager rolled her eyes and said, "Every year, it's the same story. Maybe the world doesn't end. Maybe patience does." 33 prophecies, 33 failures. From cult leaders to best-selling authors, from sandwich lawsuits to blood moons, one truth repeats itself. Every time we circled a date, the sun still rose. Predicting the end of the world is the easiest con. If you're wrong, you just reschedule. If you're right, there's no one left to check. So the next time someone says, "The world ends Tuesday," circle Wednesday. Because the only prophecy that's never failed is this: we'll always be here laughing at the dumbest doomsdays.